What's up, everybody? It is Izzy back again with episode 41 of the Q&A. I have nothing clever to add, so let's get to the first question immediately.
Why do you think so many bodybuilders use RIR training with higher volumes instead of failure training? Well, first of all, I think the way that you worded this is kind of bull. Let me explain why. If I ask a powerlifter what training system they use and they say percentage-based programming, and then I say, well, what are you doing today? And they go, I have a 5x5 at 76%. And then I go, oh, that's submaximal. You're using RIR. Well, no, their sets have RIR, but they're not using RIR. They're not even tracking it at all. And it is literally the exact same thing with most pro bodybuilders. Most pros train like this. They say, I'm going to do 5 sets of 10 on DB shoulder press, and I'm going to pick a weight where the last set of 10 is hard to get. Once I can get all 5 sets of 10, I'm going to move up dumbbells next time. So it's just basic double progression. Yes, their sets are sub-maximal, most of them, but they're not using RIR either. And again, I just talked about this recently, so I can say it again here. It doesn't have to be complicated in terms of training. A lot of pro bodybuilders have amazing genetics, and so from the very first time that they said in the gym, anything that they did worked. Any program worked. It worked better than it worked for everyone else, and they never had to use crazy modulations. They never had to learn about different kinds of periodization. Then when you chuck drugs into the picture and you chuck a 6,000 calorie a day diet into the picture, they realize that just living the lifestyle is enough in and of itself to ensure progress in the long run. And if you just meathead long enough, eventually you'll work your way up to the 150-pound dumbbells, and it'll work. Genetics are so much more important than training that you don't even need a good program to go pro.
What do you think of trestolone as a base or a compound in general? It's always somebody who's never even done a cycle that wants to talk about trestolone as a base. I would personally never use it in almost any circumstances whatsoever. It aromatizes at an extremely high rate. It's extremely powerful neurologically, and it's just completely unnecessary in terms of the side effects. If you're the kind of person whose drug dosage is so high that you actually need to decrease the volume of fluid in your syringes, that's one reason I would use it. Is top set and backoff still your default recommendation for training to failure? It's a default place to start. I mean, that like a lower rep top set and a higher rep backoff is decent on some movements. Some movements you might want 2 higher rep sets. Some movements you'll benefit from more sets or less sets. So it's a decent place to start, especially for those of you that don't have any movements with adjustable strength curves. With adjustable strength curves, a lot more opens up in terms of failure training. Especially in terms of repeating in the same rep ranges. But that's a good place to start, and you can titrate volume based on performance from there. Do you still think Ice Cream Fitness is a good hypertrophy novice program? So here's the thing about novice programs. It just doesn't matter that much, okay? Like it lasts like 6 months to 9 months where you're going in and you're doing linear progression. You're just doing the same exercises every time, adding a little bit of weight, and it just keeps working for like the first 6 to 9 months. Like you don't have to do anything complicated whatsoever. It's like literally a straight line of progress. So any linear progression program for novices is totally fine. Something like Ice Cream Fitness is great because it actually lets you train arms, unlike starting strength and other ones that don't care about that at all. Thoughts on the recent lengthened partials hype? So this is a pet peeve of mine with the so-called evidence-based community. I'd really call it like the science nerd community, of which I consider myself a fringe member. If something's not in a study, they just almost like pretend it doesn't exist or that it's completely idiotic. But bodybuilders have been training to failure and beyond failure for years and years and years. I mean, there's even like that famous video of Tom Platt that's come up on this Q&A before, where he's doing like partial leg extensions to death. Like just almost looks like he's just flailing around. So in my opinion, in general, when it comes to intensity techniques, which is what lengthened partials are, they are great to help you save time, or when you've reached the upper limit for sets in a session, but you still need more stimulus, go for intensity technique. Is it true that to preserve muscle mass, you only need to do 1/4 of the volume that built it? So studies on this show a number somewhere between 1/9 of the volume you did to build it, your usual volume, and 1/3. Here's the key caveat, though. These studies are usually done in an isocaloric state, which means they're done in calorie maintenance. It is extremely reasonable to believe, if not outright proven, that when you are in a calorie deficit, things like your protein needs go up, things like the amount of sets that you need to preserve muscle go up. So that's the tricky part of dieting, right? Is that your maximum recoverable volume goes down, and your minimum effective volume goes up. And there can even be points at which you've gotten so lean that they cross, meaning that you can't recover from the minimum amount that you would need to preserve muscle. So it's not as black and white as you're making it out here. On today's episode of Drug Questions from College-Aged Kids, why do you choose Test 300 and not a formulation with less milligrams per milliliter? Well, let me tell you, Sonny, reason number one, injections are annoying, and if you have a formulation with less milligrams per milliliter, you need to do more of them. Reason number two, Test 250, Test 200 often cost the exact same amount as Test 300, despite having 500 to 1,000 milligrams less testosterone per vial. So 300 is a better deal because people don't like that number. Fine with me. Is Lexx Little's physique attainable naturally? This is like the third one of these that you've asked me, and they're all like Zoolander frat bows with 26-inch waists. Just an observation. So as far as a level of muscularity that this kid has, yes, that is 100% achievable naturally. No offense, truly no offense, none. In the U.S., there are hundreds, if not thousands, of football players, high school and college, that are bigger than this. If you want, it's true. Yes, this is possible naturally. Now, does that mean that it's possible naturally for you? How the f*** should I know? You know, this is just like when we talked about LeBron James, and people are like, LeBron James is 6'8", with a 40-inch vertical or whatever it is. Is that possible naturally? It's possible for LeBron. Does that mean that anyone that decides to play basketball can grow to be 6'8" and have a 40-inch vert? No. So can you attain this dude's physique? No, only he can. You can do you, though. Do you think people with objectively shit genetics should avoid PEDs? Well, first of all, I'm a very big fan of anyone over the age of like 25 when your brain is fully finished developing, doing whatever the hell they choose, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. However, if you are going to be doing PEDs with the delusion of becoming a pro bodybuilder or something of that nature when you have shit genetics, and you're going to be running health-damaging doses, like 2 to 3 grams of anabolics, that is idiotic. You should avoid that, yes, in my opinion. However, there are many different ways to use PEDs. For example, there are an entire subgroup of wealthy men who go to anti-aging clinics and get prescribed protocols that have minimal, if not even positive, impacts on health and longevity. And it makes it much easier for them to attain a top 1% physique or a top 0.1% physique, especially into their 40s and 50s. And that could be a smart and wise decision depending on each person's circumstances. So there's no universal answer. Can you quantify stimulus within a movement by just counting effective reps? No, you cannot, for two reasons. One, the reps that are not effective reps also still provide some level of stimulus. There are studies that show people very far away from failure sometimes get hypertrophy. Reason number two, I don't believe that all effective reps are created equal. So the first effective rep where you're still 4 reps away from failure, and the rep that is right before failure, the rep that takes you to the point where you couldn't do another one, the level of stimulus you get from those reps is not equal. So in my opinion, it's not as simple as just counting effective reps to estimate stimulus. No, sorry. If I just want a big chest and I only care about that, nothing else, how should I go about doing that? How should I train? Bro, did you really just ask me for advice on how to skip leg day? Anyway, it's not going to be fundamentally different, right? You're just going to be able to do more frequency and more volume than you used to. So maybe you used to train chest twice a week, and now you can get away with doing it 3 times a week. Maybe you used to do 10 sets for chest, but now you're going to get away with 20 or even 30 sets for chest because you don't have to recover from anything else. So whatever metrics that you use to determine volume and frequency, you're going to keep using those, but they're just going to go up since you don't do anything else. How can I make up for not having a pre-workout meal? Well, this is one instance, and probably the one instance where I think supplements are really useful. You can get a whey protein shake, you can get some sort of a carb powder like dextrose, and just make a quick shake and down it while you're at the gym. And guess what? Now you no longer have zero pre-workout nutrition. You have workout nutrition through a shake, and it should take you less than 2 minutes to make that. So supplements is the answer here. Do you use or recommend any supplements for sleep quality? No. Here's the issue with most sleep supplements. They will work for some people some of the time, and that means in general, when you look at the research, it's equivocal. You don't get consistent results from person to person, so you're often spending a pretty good chunk of money, like $50, $60+ a bottle for something that may or may not work, and even if it is working, you have no idea which of the ingredients is what's working for you personally. Now, I will say for me, this is something that I have tested many, many times. Melatonin, 5 milligrams, helps me to fall asleep more quickly. Definitely it does. And again, melatonin falls into the same category though in terms of the whole of people. When they get tested, the response to melatonin is all over the place. People do not have the same response. So the only thing I can tell you is to try it and see. Some people get weird dreams from melatonin. Some people get absolutely nothing. And some people like me, it does help me to fall asleep more consistently and faster. All right, last one for the day. What are your real estate goals for the next 3 to 5 years? Well, currently we have one Airbnb up and running, and that one pays for itself and then some at the end of the year. It's very, very slow, though, for like 6 months of the year. So the goal would be to get at least one more Airbnb with an opposite slow season, maybe 2 more, and then just rotate primary residents through those locations when each one is having its respective slow season. From there, hopefully I'll have all of them cover all related expenses, including the mortgage, so that, all work-related income can just be saved, and it sort of fast-tracks retirement. And additionally, gives a nice little insurance, as assuming that those properties keep being profitable enough to pay for themselves. In 30 years, you have 3 properties fully paid for and pretty much a guaranteed retirement. All right, everybody, you know the drill. If you liked the video, like the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I get to them as soon as I can, and I usually answer all of them. Subscribe if you haven't already. And, of course, have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.